When billionaires go broke, they sell yachts. Maybe some stocks. Worst case, a private island or two. But this billionaire? He sold something a little more handmade. Let's just say it wasn't from his portfolio. It was from below the belt. What followed? A $250 million deal, international lawsuits, ethics panels losing their minds, and a child who might literally run the world someday. This isn't a business story, it's a biological thriller. Because when your net worth depends on what you can produce in a cup behind a locked door, you're not preserving wealth. You're exporting it, one drop at a time. In the world of tech gods and billionaire brawlers, Damian Cole wasn't just another name. He was the name. At 42, he'd climbed the unscalable mountain of Silicon Valley success without stepping on a single rung of the traditional ladder. No investors, no board, no begging, just brains, bravado, and the relentless obsession of a man who believed the world should run on his vision. Forbes once called him the new Jobs, and for once, the media wasn't exaggerating. Damian's company, Cloud Nova, didn't just make artificial intelligence, it defined it. His flagship product, MindSight, was used in high-security surveillance systems from Washington to Dubai, monitoring everything from terrorism to corporate espionage. His clients? The types who only signed contracts in private jets or underground bunkers. He lived as if reality bent to him. Malibu mansion with a panoramic view of the Pacific. A black bulletproof G-Wagon he never drove under 100. A private island in Montenegro where he once hosted a New Year's Eve party for 14 guests that cost $7.2 million. Every inch of his life felt curated by a Netflix prop team. But beneath the steel-cut jawline and perfectly tailored Tom Ford suits was Damian's true power, control. He didn't just own Cloud Nova, he was Cloud Nova. Holding 96% of the company, he refused venture capital like it was a contagious disease. "I don't need advice from people who didn't invent anything," he once told Bloomberg. Every investor in town wanted a piece. Damian gave them none. And then came Project Vanta, a next-gen AI so powerful it could mimic decision-making processes faster than a human brain. Vanta was supposed to be Damian's legacy. It would predict global threats, restructure corporate workflows, and revolutionize warfare strategy, all in milliseconds. It was his moonshot. Only, it wasn't working. Inside Cloud Nova's opulent San Francisco headquarters, complete with waterfalls, AI bartenders, and a meditation room inspired by Japanese rock gardens, panic brewed behind glass walls. Vanta's neural network kept collapsing under high-pressure data loads. Weeks turned to months. Updates failed. Clients grew silent. Engineers whispered. Lawyers circled. The project was hemorrhaging cash, $10 million a week, and Damian wouldn't take a dime from outsiders. Not even to breathe. He started skipping leadership meetings, pacing his Malibu balcony until dawn, phone glued to his ear, demanding breakthroughs that never came. His CTO threatened to walk. His legal chief warned of class action lawsuits. Still, Damian refused to blink. Until the article dropped. Front page of the Wall Street Journal. Is Damian Cole's empire on the verge of collapse? The headline hit the internet like a thunderclap. Screens lit up across every trading floor. The story tore through tech Twitter in minutes. Unconfirmed sources within Cloud Nova suggest CEO Damian Cole is ignoring mounting financial risks while clinging to a product insiders now call Project Vanity. Damian stared at the article in silence. It was 3:12 a.m. He was alone in his glass-encased home office, a Japanese whiskey sweating on the marble desk beside him. His reflection in the screen looked foreign, gaunt, haunted. His phone buzzed nonstop. Journalists. Board members of companies he partnered with. His private banker. His lawyer. He didn't answer any of them. Instead, he stood up, walked barefoot across the chilled stone floor, and opened the floor-to-ceiling doors to the ocean air. Waves crashed below. The sky was bruised with clouds. He lit a cigarette, his first in 6 years. "They think I'm cornered," he muttered. "But they forgot. I built this from nothing." That night, as the world speculated about the fall of the century's boldest tech icon, Damian made a silent vow. He would not go down. He would do whatever it took, even if it meant doing something no billionaire had ever done before. The last place you'd expect a billionaire to be approached for his sperm was a tech summit in Dubai. But that's exactly where Damian Cole met Celeste Varelli. It wasn't just any summit. This was the Circle, an invite-only gathering of the world's most powerful minds, hosted inside a private hotel suspended on stilts above the Persian Gulf. It had no website, no schedule, and no media presence. Just private jets, security clearances, and conversations that would never appear in public record. Damien arrived late, as always. His tailored black linen suit clung to his sharp frame. His presence in the circular glass lounge turned heads, not because people hadn't seen billionaires before, but because he was the billionaire who never showed up. Damien was a myth in these circles, a ghost with $1 trillion shadow. But she, Celeste Varelli, was already there, sipping a clear drink with no ice, seated alone on a black leather booth like a villainess out of a Kubrick film. Tall, statuesque, with hair so blonde it bordered silver. Cold steel eyes, and a stillness about her that made even the richest men hesitate. She owned Helix Corp, a DNA encryption tech giant based out of Switzerland, rumored to be backed by royal family fortunes and former intelligence agencies. While Damien played God with AI, Celeste built keys to unlock the human genome. "Mr. Cole," she said, as he approached her booth. Her accent was faintly European, almost robotic. "I've been waiting." He didn't sit immediately. "I'm not here to pitch or partner. Just trying to make it through 2 hours without being asked for money." She smiled. Not warmly, strategically, then tapped the seat across from her. "Good. I'm not here for money," she said. "I'm here to give it to you." That got his attention. She slid a gold-plated envelope across the glass table. Polished. Heavy. Embossed with a Helix Corp insignia. Damien opened it, slowly. Inside was a single-page contract, backed by legal documentation, $250 million, wired upon agreement. His brow lifted. "What's the catch?" Celeste reached into her bag and placed a sleek black case beside the envelope. She opened it to reveal a cryogenic vial container and a contract labeled Personal Genetic Contribution Agreement. Damien blinked. "What the hell is this?" Celeste didn't blink. "In exchange for $250 million, I want your sperm. One-time donation. No contact. No parental rights. No offspring recognition. Purely genetic use." Damien actually laughed. "Is this a goddamn prank?" She leaned forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "Our latest genome filter analyzed over 48,000 elite DNA samples. Yours was the only one flagged as viable for our legacy prototype. You're more valuable to me genetically than Cloud Nova is financially." The air in the lounge froze. Damien looked around to see if anyone was watching. They weren't. Of course they weren't. Everything here was engineered for discretion. "This is insane," he said, closing the envelope. "You think I'm going to whore out my DNA like I'm some genetic vending machine?" Celeste shrugged. "You'd be surprised what people will do when their empire is bleeding." Damien stood. "Not me." And with that, he walked out. Cool. Composed. Masked. But under his skin, something rattled. Not because of the offer, because of how calm she was. Because she wasn't bluffing. Back in his suite that night, he barely slept. His phone lit up with pings, notifications he didn't want to read. The headline hit before sunrise. Cloud Nova's largest government contract canceled amid AI failure rumors. The client, the $900 million backbone of Cloud Nova, was gone. Damien's stock price plummeted 18% overnight. Then came the second blow. His CFO, Marcus Lin, a Harvard friend, the only other person with bank access, was missing. Worse, so were $30 million in liquid assets. The private vault was drained. His head of security sent a grainy photo from a hotel camera in Singapore. Marcus boarding a flight with a redhead Damien didn't recognize and a suitcase Damien did. By 3 a.m., Damien was sitting alone in his suite, staring at the golden envelope he had somehow brought with him. The contract was still inside. He read it again. Every line. Every clause. The payout was instant. The conditions were airtight. The anonymity was absolute. One sentence stood out. "Your DNA is the future of our future." He lit a cigarette with a shaky hand. His phone buzzed with a new notification. Cole's net worth falls below $1 billion for first time since 2015. He crushed the cigarette, picked up the envelope, and whispered to himself, "This is madness." But madness, he was starting to realize, might be the only option he had left. Damien Cole had never been desperate before. Not when he maxed out 4 credit cards to launch Cloud Nova. Not when his first algorithm got stolen by a former friend. Not even when the U.S. Defense Department tried to buy him out. But now he was cornered. $10 million evaporating every week. A CFO who'd vanished like smoke with $30 million in liquid funds. Headlines spinning. Cloud Nova bleeding. And sitting on his desk, wrapped in absurd elegance, was the gold-plated envelope. He called his legal team. Absolutely not, said Olivia Chun, lead counsel. This opens the door to everything from bioethics violations to parental rights disputes. We're not signing off on this. I'm not asking for your blessing, Damien replied. I'm asking for silence. His fiancée, Aria, a Vogue-featured interior architect with a Manhattan accent and opinions sharper than stilettos, wasn't so subtle. You're out of your mind, she said, pacing their Malibu bedroom in a silk robe. This is genetic prostitution, Damien. You're selling your legacy to some European eugenics queen. He stared at her, silent. Then at the balcony where they'd once talked about raising kids. The ocean looked different tonight, cold, disapproving. She left him that night. His therapist? The one he paid $900 an hour to whisper about control and trauma? She quit via voice memo. I can't be part of this decision. Good luck, Damien. He had no friends left. But he had a decision to make. 2 nights later, Damien boarded a private jet to Monaco. No one knew. No one could. The procedure was done at a clandestine fertility lab hidden inside a luxury wellness center, complete with champagne service and underground access to a high-security vault. Everything was choreographed like a spy op. One alias, Mr. Ashcroft. One sample. One digital signature. 48 hours later, Damien was back in Malibu when the alert hit. $250 million. Wired. Instantly. From an encrypted Swiss bank via Helix Corp's shadow fund. He blinked. Cloud Nova's books turned from deep red to jet black. Payroll resumed. Vendors were paid. Product dev rebooted. The bleeding slowed. But the relief lasted barely a week. It started small, an anonymous email titled, "How much is your DNA worth, Damien?" Then came the texts. From burner numbers. Threatening leaks. Demanding payment. Someone knew. Then, on a Thursday morning, all hell broke loose. Hashtag Billionaire Baby Daddy. The hashtag exploded on Twitter. A leaked screenshot of the contract. His name, Celeste's signature, and a blurred vile image. It hit Reddit, then Instagram, then the Daily Mail. Billionaire trades his sperm for cash. Tech Mobile's shocking deal with Swiss heiress revealed. The memes were instant. A Photoshop Damien cradling a baby made of gold. Whose baby is it anyway? In neon pink font over his Malibu estate. Late-night comedians devoured it. Shareholders panicked. His board turned. The interim chairman called an emergency meeting. You turned this company into a circus, he growled. We're not here to trade DNA. We build AI. Investors filed ethics lawsuits. Protesters appeared outside Cloud Nova's headquarters with signs that read, I am not your science experiment. Tech brothers shouldn't be breeders. The company's value rebounded, but Damien's credibility plummeted. He tried calling Celeste. No answer. Her Swiss office disconnected. Helix Corp's website? Offline. Her social media? Gone. Her mansion in Geneva? Emptied. It was as if she'd evaporated. Damien hired a private firm to track her down. The best in the world. They returned with nothing. We can't even find a footprint, said the lead investigator. It's like she never existed. And that terrified Damien more than anything. Because the money was real. The contract was real. The sample was real. But now the woman behind it all had vanished, with his DNA. Damien stared at the contract in his safe one last time. The line that haunted him. Purely genetic use. No contact. No recognition. No questions. And yet, he had more questions than ever. Lisbon, Portugal. A year ago, Damien Cole ruled the world from a glass fortress above the Pacific. Now, he sat in a third-floor walk-up with water-stained ceilings and a broken espresso machine that leaked onto his only pair of clean jeans. His fall wasn't slow. It was savage. After the leak, the lawsuits, and the public backlash, Cloud Nova's board held a secret vote. It was unanimous. Damien was removed as CEO, stripped of all operational power. The company he built, brick by digital brick, now bore his name, but not his command. He tried to fight it. Burned through 6 law firms. filed injunctions in 3 countries. Nothing stuck. The media labeled him everything from Silicon Valley's fallen star to the father of a scandal. Venture blogs wrote think pieces on ego. Twitter turned him into a cautionary meme. He couldn't go anywhere in public without whispers following him like ghosts. So he left. Lisbon was the only city where no one cared who he used to be. He lived quietly, under an alias. Rented a 1-bedroom overlooking a tram line. Grew out his beard. Learned to cook pasta badly. Walked a lot. Thought more. He hadn't heard from Celeste Varelli in 11 months. Not a word. Not a trace. Until the letter arrived. No return address. No stamp. Just his name, handwritten in ink too elegant for spam. He opened it over the kitchen sink. Inside, a single photograph. A newborn baby swaddled in white. Wide gray eyes. A shock of black hair. Underneath, scrawled in perfect cursive. Meet your son. Born from greatness. Damien's hands shook. His knees buckled. He leaned against the counter, staring at the photo like it was ticking. He flipped it over. Nothing. No details. No location. He stared at the infant's face, searching. The jawline. The eyes. The slight smirk that mirrored his own. It couldn't be. Could it? Before he could process it, his phone buzzed with notifications, dozens of them. Celeste was back. The world hadn't seen her in nearly a year. She emerged not with an apology, but with a campaign. Her face graced the cover of Time, Vogue Business, Wired, and Scientific American, all in the same week. Dressed in glacier white silk, with the child in her arms, she declared the launch of Genetic Royals, a revolutionary initiative designed to usher in a new era of elite leadership through premium DNA curation. Her words, not the media's. In the press conference, she never mentioned Damien by name. She didn't have to. Everyone knew. The child was the world's first engineered corporate heir, a prototype born from the union of the 2 most advanced genetic lineages in tech and bioengineering. But then came the real twist. Documents leaked during a financial filing revealed a joint agreement, hidden within the Helix Corp Cloud Nova restructuring plan. The child was listed as the sole future beneficiary of both companies. A prearranged merger, contingent upon the child reaching adulthood. Shares, assets, leadership, all programmed to converge under one name. Project Legacy. It sent the business world into chaos. News anchors debated ethics. Investors demanded answers. Bioethics committees held emergency hearings. Twitter collapsed into think piece wars. Damien, watching it all from his crumbling Lisbon flat, stared at his reflection in the blank TV screen. His face looked older, worn, but his eyes still had that flicker, the one that had built empires. He knew what Celeste had done. She hadn't just taken his DNA. She'd built a dynasty with it. And somehow, he wasn't even in it. That night, Damien poured himself a drink and pulled out the photo again. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Son." He didn't know if he was angry, or proud, or terrified. Maybe all 3. But one thing was clear. The game wasn't over. Not even close. The moment the documents went public, naming the genetically engineered child as the future heir of both Cloud Nova and Helix Corp, Damien Cole's phone didn't stop ringing for 36 hours. Lawyers, journalists, whistleblowers, former employees, even his ex-fiancée, Aria, called, just to say, "I told you she was dangerous." But Damien didn't answer a single call. Instead, he sat in his dim Lisbon apartment, watching the announcement replay over and over again on international news. Celeste on a pristine white stage, baby in her arms, the words Project Legacy glowing in soft neon behind her. The world applauded as if they were watching the future of civilization unfold. That night, Damien called his new attorney in New York. "File the suit," he said. "Everything I've got. Patent violations, bio-theft, genetic fraud. I want her on trial in front of the entire world." And just like that, the most bizarre legal war of the 21st century began. The court filings stunned the public. Damien accused Celeste of unauthorized reproductive use of genetic material, theft of proprietary code, claiming she embedded parts of Cloud Nova's AI within her new company's neuroalgorithms, and most controversially, genetic brand manipulation, asserting she used their child's existence to stage a corporate coup. Ethics panels exploded into emergency sessions. Talk shows booked panels of lawyers, scientists, philosophers, and billionaires to debate the fallout. What were the legal rights of a sperm donor when billions were at stake? Was DNA property? And if so, who owned it after it left your body? Then came the leak. An anonymous email hit every major media outlet at once. Subject line, the Royal Collector. Inside, over 300 encrypted documents detailing Celeste Varelli's past decade and her mission to assemble a vault of elite DNA. NBA stars, Nobel laureates, royal family members, CEOs, chess champions, even a former astronaut. All anonymized, all genetically analyzed. Many compensated through shell companies. It was global, strategic, chilling. She'd been doing this long before Damien. The headlines that followed were explosive. The billionaire who harvested the world's best DNA. Celeste's eugenics empire. Is your genius child part of a billionaire's master plan? Public opinion turned instantly. What once felt like bold innovation began to feel like quiet dystopia. And in the center of it all stood Damien Cole. He agreed to one interview. Just one. A primetime exclusive with international journalist Miriam Voss, filmed in a single take from a sleek rooftop in Lisbon. Black turtleneck, no makeup, no PR team. The segment aired on every continent. And his words lit up the world. I sold my sperm to save my soul's work. I didn't sell my legacy. She stole that. She built an empire on my name, my DNA, my code, and tried to erase me from it. The video went viral instantly. 300 million views in 4 days. Comments called him a tragic anti-hero, the mad genius with a broken heart, the father of a digital revolution he never got to raise. Fan edits flooded TikTok. A Netflix exec tweeted a single emoji, eyes. And then, something strange happened. Cloud Nova stocks surged. Not because Damien had returned. He hadn't. But because people started believing in the story again. His story. Under new leadership, Cloud Nova unveiled their new neural chip, the Nova Core X, based almost entirely on Damien's original codebase. The patents still bore his name, his logic, his architecture. Damien watched the press conference from the shadows of a Lisbon cafe. The CEO quoted his infamous line, "We don't build the future, we predict it." Everyone clapped. He didn't, because he knew exactly what was happening. They were using his past to build their future. And while the world cheered, Damien Cole, once erased, now reborn in scandal, realized something. He may have lost his company. He may have lost his name. But he was still the architect of the future. And somewhere out there, his heir, the boy born from greatness, was growing up inside a kingdom neither of them had truly chosen. Tokyo, Japan. The city pulsed like circuitry, neon veins lighting up the skyline, electric quiet humming between crosswalks. It was a place where the future didn't just happen, it lived. And for Damien Cole, it was the perfect place to disappear. No more headlines. No more interviews. No more empires. Just code. In a minimalist apartment tucked away in Akasaka, Damien lived alone, rebuilding himself the only way he knew how. Through creation. He had launched a new startup, quietly, under the name NeuronSoft. It focused on cutting-edge neuroscience and brain-computer interface tech that could heal trauma, boost memory, and maybe, one day, rewrite the mind. Not to rule the world. Not to impress shareholders. But because something inside him still had to build. He wasn't chasing valuation anymore. He was chasing meaning. 6 months into Tokyo life, his name resurfaced. Unexpectedly and violently. Forbes. Front page. The man who sold his sperm and became a legend. The story wasn't cruel. In fact, it painted him as a myth. The man who sacrificed everything to save his creation. The man who gave up his throne but left the world a crown. The article called him a fallen king turned ghost architect. It spread fast. The whispers returned. Investors started sniffing around NeuronSoft. Documentary producers sent offers. Book deals. Biopics. Damien declined them all. He had made peace with his exile. Mostly. Meanwhile, across the world, Celeste Varelli was raising the child, now known across media as the billion-dollar baby. They lived in a secure alpine compound. The child never appeared in public, but rumors swirled. That he spoke 5 languages by age 3. That he was being trained by ex-Mossad operatives and AI tutors. that a council of CEOs had already pledged future seats on their boards. Helix Corp and Cloud Nova merged in name only. Both funneled their resources into something called Project Legacy, an initiative kept tightly under wraps. But insiders whispered it was no longer about technology. It was about succession. Then, one day, a letter arrived at Damien's Tokyo apartment. Hand-delivered. No stamp. Just a cream envelope with a familiar curve to the handwriting. Inside, there was no money. No lawsuit. No press. Just a child's drawing. Crayon on paper. A sun in the top right corner. A smiling robot with square arms. And beside it, a man, tall, spiky hair, arms stretched wide. Below it, in shaky handwriting that looked too careful to be random. Daddy. Damien didn't move. He stared at the paper for a long time, like it might vanish if he blinked. The emotions that flooded his chest were too many to name. Guilt. Hope. Maybe even pride. Not for himself, but for the boy he'd never met. The boy who somehow knew who he was. And that meant one thing. Celeste told him. She didn't have to. She could have kept it buried forever. But she didn't. This was her message. The child didn't know his name, but he knew he existed. Damien walked out onto his balcony as Tokyo glimmered below. He held the drawing to his chest and breathed in the cool air. Maybe he would never run a trillion-dollar company again. Maybe he would never be in the headlines, or on stages, or on magazine covers. But somewhere out there was a boy who had inherited half of his DNA, and maybe more. And that meant something. It meant the story wasn't over. Not even close.